What's up, everybody? It is time for today's Daily Chase. Today's Daily Chase is titled Victory Begins at a Bloody, Fiery Altar. If this was indeed a brazen altar, whether literal or figurative, then it was an altar where blood fell on coals of fire because it was a bloody altar of sacrifice. Victory begins at a bloody, fiery altar. Even though you see him high and lifted up, you must also see the blood and fire of the altar of sacrifice. You may or may not agree with this understanding of Isaiah's vision, but God doesn't waste words. In his divine plan, without the shedding of blood, there is no remission. See Hebrews 9, verses 22. Isaiah cried out in open confession of sin, fearing for his life because his unredeemed flesh had seen the glory of the Lord. He needed his sins removed and the unworthiness covered. He needed the blood somehow, and perhaps the coal from the altar was a blood-stained coal of priceless worth. This explanation may not be for your satisfaction, but we must agree that it is dangerous for men to get to the fire before they get to the blood. According to the book of Leviticus, Old Testament priests had to wring out the excess blood of certain animal sacrifices before they dragged the carcass across the altar. Again, we must be at the point of offense, but we may be at the point of offense, but we have gone too far to turn back. Those priests, though dressed in white, had to bloody that altar from the bottom up and on all sides of the altar before they ever got to the fire. Offensive or not, this speaks loudly to any believer or church earnestly seeking revival today. There is no shortcut around Calvary to the upper room. Give me 1 second, turning the page here. The Apostle Paul speaks to us with this command. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Romans 12:1. There must be a burning of self. The living offering must be placed on an altar of fire and fixed there with no escape. God's message has always been a message of blood first and then of fire. That is the divine order of the progression. You will never make it until you first bloody an altar somewhere. Lay your flesh out before God and make a personal trip to Calvary. Identify yourself with the Lamb of God who died there. Consider the principle of miracle revealed in the way the priests were to certify the cure of lepers among the Israelites. When a leper was finally cleansed, he was to go to the priest and to bring with him 2 birds. The priest would pour water into a basin, kill one of the birds, and allow its blood to mix with the water. Then the priest would bind the living bird to a piece of wood and a sprig of hyssop, using a piece of scarlet thread. Finally, the living bird was doused or baptized with the blood and water by the tight hands of the law, represented by the priest. Immediately, the quivering, frightened bird would be taken to an open field, where it would be set free, all because of the wood, the hyssop, the scarlet thread, and the blood and water. The bird was free because of the death of another kind like himself. He was freed from the clutches of bondage and the law. Hope you guys are encouraged today. That was the Daily Chase for today. Victory begins at a bloody, fiery altar.